Okay. Hello and a very good day, everyone. Thank you for joining today's meetings. Before we begin, I would like to introduce our committee members and their roles. First, we have Najwa as our secretary. She is responsible for recording minutes of meetings and managing some of our reports. Second, we have Hakim as our treasurer. He in charge of budgeting and some financial planning. And then next we have Shakirin as our logistic coordinator. He responsible for transportation, for our accommodation, and also some itinerary arrangements. And then finally we have Diana as our documentation coordinator. She will handle photography, videography, and publicity materials for our meeting and so on. So thank you all for being here and contributing to this discussion. So, as everyone knows, our purpose today is to discuss and decide on the destination for our international field trip. Currently now we have two proposals, which are Japan and also Indonesia. Before making any decision, I would like us to evaluate both destinations based on educational value, some budget, student participation, logistics, and overall benefits. I also encourage everyone to share their own opinions as openly and respectfully so that we can reach the best decision as our team. So, without further ado, let's begin with the Japan proposal. Hakim, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Shakir. Good evening, everyone. I would like to propose Japan as our destination for the international field trip. The proposed trip will cover Tokyo and Kyoto over 7 days and 6 nights during the second week of August, which falls between the semester break. The estimated budget is between 4,500 to 5,500 per student. One of the main reasons I selected Japan is because of its strong educational value. Japan is globally recognized for technological advancement, innovation, and modern infrastructure. Students will have the opportunity to observe advanced transportation systems, technological development, and innovative practices that contribute to Japan's success. Apart from that, we'll also gain cultural exposure through visits to historical sites in Kyoto, allowing them to experience Japanese traditions and heritage. Personally, I believe an international field trip should provide experiences that cannot easily be gained in a classroom. Therefore, I strongly believe Japan would be an excellent destination. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakim. I think that was a very informative presentation. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions regarding the Japan proposal?
Yes, I do. First of all, I think the proposal sounds very impressive and educationally beneficial. I can definitely see why Japan is being considered because it offers a combination of technological advancements and also cultural exposure. However, the budget immediately caught my attention. 4,500 ringgit to 5,500 ringgit is quite a substantial amount for a student, especially when many students may have other financial commitments. While I agree that educational opportunities are very important, and I also think we need to consider whether the program would be accessible to the majority of students. So my question is, do you think the cost might discourage some students from participating? And if so, how do you think we can address that issue?
Well, that's a valid point, Najwa. I completely understand why the budget might be a concern for some students because, yeah, 4,500 to 5,500 is definitely not a small amount. However, I think we should also consider the value that students would receive from the trip. Besides visiting another country, students would also gain exposure to new technologies, different learning environments, and Japanese cultures. I believe this experience could have be a positive impact on students both academically and personally. Of course, affordability is still important, which is why fundraising activities and sponsorship opportunities could help reduce some of the financial burden.
If I may, I would like to add something. I'm agreed that education value is important, and I can understand why Japan is being considered. However, before I can fully support the proposal, I would like to know more about the education activity that will be included. For example, are there plans for university visit or innovation center? The reason I'm asking because the estimate budget is quite substantial for students actually. If students are expected to spend between 4,500 ringgit to 5,500 ringgit, I think they will want a clear picture of what they will actually gain from the experience. Personally, I think students will be more willing to participate if there are structured education activities rather than just sightseeing opportunities. So, I would like to know whether there are any specific learning experience plan that will be make the trip worldwide for students.
That's a very good question, Diana. Personally, I think the trip should include more than just sightseeing activities. Yeah, because this is supposed to be an educational program. For example, students could visit universities, technology centers, and innovation hubs. These visits would allow students to see how innovation contributes to economic growth and everyday life in Japan. I also think students would benefit from observing how educational institutions and industries operate in a different environment. So, in my opinion, the combination of educational visits and cultural experiences would make the trip worthwhile.
Actually, Hakim, I would like to ask something as well. Let's
Yeah.
say only half of the students only are able to afford the trip. Would you still consider Japan as the best option?
Well, for me, honestly, yes. Of course, I would like as many students as possible to participate because the purpose of the program is to benefit the students. However, I think we should focus not only on the number of participants, but also on the quality of the experience being offered. If the educational opportunities are significantly stronger, then I believe Japan remains a very strong option. At the end of the day, I think we should choose the destination that provide the greatest overall benefits to students, right?
Can I just add something here?
Yes, of course, Shakirin. Sure.
So I think Hakim has presented some strong arguments, and I can definitely understand why Japan is an attractive option. So, however, I'm not completely convinced that the additional benefit justifies such a large difference in cost. So when I compare 5,000 with 2,000, that's a substantial gap from a student. So my concern is whether the additional cost truly translate into significantly greater value from a student perspective. I think affordability is often one of the most important factor when deciding whether to participate in a program. So if the cost becomes too high, some students may not even have the opportunity to benefit from the educational experience. So I think we should carefully consider whether the additional benefits outweigh the financial burden.
That's a fair question, Shakirin. Personally, I do believe the additional cost translates into additional value. Japan offers opportunities that students may not easily encounter elsewhere, especially in terms of technology and innovation. Students would be able to observe systems and practices that are recognized internationally and learn how they can contribute to the country's development. While I understand that affordability is important, I think we should also consider the long term educational benefits that students may gain from this experience.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I think we have already heard enough about Japan right now. And now let's move on to the Indonesia proposal. Shakirin, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. So, right now I would like to propose Indonesia as our destination. So, the proposed trip will focus on Jakarta and also Bandung over 5 days and 4 nights during the second week of August. So, the estimated budget is between 1,500 until 2,000 per student. So, one of the Indonesia greatest advantage is affordability. Compared to Japan, the cost is significantly lower, which means more students are likely to participate. So I think students will also gain exposure to cultural diversity, economic development, and also educational institutions within the Southeast Asia. So therefore, I believe Indonesia is the most practical option.
Okay. Thank you, Shakirin. Any questions regarding the Indonesia proposal?
Actually, I do. I understand the affordability advantage, and I think that's definitely one of the strongest point of the Indonesian proposal. Lower cost will likely encourage more students to participate, which is something we should take into consideration. However, I would like to understand more about the unique benefit that Indonesian can offer. If a student only get one opportunity to participate in an international field trip during university, what made Indonesian stand out compared to the Japan? For example, are there any specific education experience, industry visit, or learning opportunities that students will gain from this trip? I'm asking because while affordability is important, I think students will also want to know how the trip could contribute to their academic development and overall learning experience. So, in your opinion, what will make Indonesian the better choice despite the differences in education exposure that have been discussed earlier?
Thank you, Diana. That's a fair question. So I think educational value doesn't only come from technology. So I think Indonesia offers opportunity to learn about the culture, regional development, and also economic growth within the Southeast Asia. So students will also have the opportunity to observe how neighboring countries develop their economies and also manage cultural diversity. In addition, I think Indonesia shares a certain similarity with Malaysia, which could make comparison and also learning outcome more meaningful for students. I also believe that educational value can come from understanding different societies, culture, and development strategy, not only from exposure to advanced technology. So that's why I believe Indonesia remains a strong educational option.
That's actually what I'm trying to figure out as well. To be honest, before today's meeting, I was leaning toward Indonesia because the budget seemed much more manageable. My initial thought was that a lower cost would allow more students to participate and benefit from the program. However, after listening to both presentations, I'm beginning to wonder whether students might miss out on bigger opportunities if we choose the cheaper option. When I compare both proposals, I can see that Japan appears to offer stronger educational I can see that Japan appears to offer stronger educational exposure, particularly in terms of technology and innovation. So now I'm finding it much harder to decide than I expected. What do you think, Diana? If you had to choose either Japan and Indonesia, which proposal would you prefer?
Okay, honestly, I still somewhere in the middle. I think both proposals have their own strengths. Indonesia is clearly better in terms of affordability, and I completely understand why many students will be attracted to the option. At the same time, after listening to Hakim's presentation earlier, I can also see that Japan appeal to offer stronger education opportunities and international exposure. So, for me, the decision really depends on what our priority is as a group. If our main concern is affordability, then Indonesia definitely has an advantage. However, if our focus is on education value and learning opportunities, then Japan seems to have a strongest case. That's why I'm still trying to evaluate both proposals carefully before making a final decision.
Okay, and now it seems like our discussion right now is very interesting. I would like to ask Najwa, if fundraising activities were successful and the overall cost became lower, would your opinion change?
Honestly, yes. I think the budget always been my biggest concern regarding Japan proposal. However, if fundraising activities and sponsorship opportunities could significantly reduce the cost, then I would probably place much more emphasis on educational value. At that point, I think the comparison becomes much more balanced. And if we are talking purely about educational value, technological exposure, and overall learning opportunities, I do think Japan has the advantage. That's why my opinion has gradually started to shift throughout this discussion.
Okay, now, how about you, Diana?
Oh, I feel the same way. Budget is definitely important, and I don't think anyone here is ignoring that concern, right? So, however, I also don't think it should be the only factor influencing our decision. If fundraising activity and sponsorship opportunities can help reduce the financial burden, then perhaps we should focus on more the overall benefit of trip. For what we have discussed so far, Japan appear to offer stronger education opportunities and exposure. So, although I'm still understand that concern regarding affordability, I'm beginning to see why many members are leaning toward Japan.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that. If our goal is to maximize educational exposure and learning opportunities, then I think Japan's provides stronger value.
I understand your point, and I agree that fundraising could certainly help. However, I still think we are underestimating the importance of affordability. Even with fundraising activities, Japan will still be significantly more expensive than the Indonesia. So not every student will have the same financial situation, and I think that's the something we need to keep in mind. So one of the strengths of the Indonesia proposal is that it allows more students to participate without placing too much financial pressure on them. So from my perspective, accessibility is also an important part of successful educational program.
Okay, that's a valid point. Okay, lastly, I would like to ask, let me ask everyone one final question. If budget wasn't an issue, which destination would you choose? First, Najwa,
For my side, I definitely choose Japan as well.
Diana,
I think Japan as well.
Hakim,
Oh, for me, definitely Japan.
how about Shakirin?
I admit that Japan has a stronger academic advantage.
Okay, interesting. It seems like educational value is pulling most of us towards Japan, while, as you guys mentioned about affordability, is pulling us towards Indonesia. Before making our final decision, let's briefly discuss again about our participant estimates and some committee responsibilities. So, in my opinion, I estimate around 30 to 40 students could be interested in joining. How about Akim?
Mm, I've estimated I estimate around 35 students would participate, especially if fundraising activities are introduced.
Okay, how about Najwa?
I believe 30 to 40 students would register, particularly those interested in technology and international exposure.
And then Diana, how about you?
I think I estimate around 38 students will join if promotional efforts are successful.
And then finally, Shakirin, how about you?
I also estimate 30 to 40 participants will be manageable.
Okay, thank you for your feedback. Based on the team's estimates, I think we expect around 30 to 40 students to be interested in joining this educational trip. And now, before we vote, let's briefly again, lastly, about our responsibilities. So, Najwa, what is your responsibility?
As secretary, I will prepare minute of meeting, manage official correspondence, and coordinate participant registration.
Hakim?
Okay, as for me, I am as a treasurer. I will oversee the budgeting, fundraising activities, and financial planning.
Okay, Shakirin?
For me, as a logistic coordinator, I will handle the transportation, accommodation, and also the itinerary arrangement.
And then finally, Diana.
Okay, as coordinator, I will manage photography, videography, publicity material, and program documentation.
Okay, finally, me as a project manager, I will coordinate the overall project, our project, and ensure all of the preparations are completed on schedule. And now, finally, let's proceed with our final decision. Those who support Japan as the destination for our international field trip, please state your choice. First, I think we can start with Hakim.
Yeah. For me, I vote for Japan. Although the cost is slightly higher than Indonesia, I believe the benefits and learning opportunities make it worth the investment. Therefore, Japan remains my preferred choice.
Okay, how about Najwa?
I definitely vote for Japan.
And then Diana, how about you?
I vote for Japan too.
If me, I will vote for Japan. And now, how about Shakirin? What do you think?
Mm, I still vote for Indonesia because I believe it offers a more affordable and accessible option for students. Throughout today's discussion, I have consistently emphasized the importance of participation and financial accessibility. However, I respect the majority decision and I also understand why the group has chosen Japan. So although Japan was not my preferred option, I acknowledge its educational strength and I will fully support the group decision moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Shakirin, for your explanation. So, based on the discussion and majority agreement, Japan has been selected as our final destination for the international field trip. The trip is proposed for the second week of August, as mentioned by Hakim just now, and also with an estimated participation of 30 to 40 students that have been discussed by us just now also. And also Hakim proposed we are going there for about 7 days and 6 nights. And then to summarize again, our group already agreed that Japan offers stronger educational opportunities and also technology exposure. And finally, the last one is about valuable international experiences. Although the cost is a bit higher, maybe fundraising activities and some sponsorship.
Sponsorship.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
sponsorship opportunities may help us to reduce the financial burden. Again, thank you everyone for your active participation. Your idea is very informative, and then also with valuable contribution throughout today's discussion. So, finally, last one. Najwa, do you want to add something?
No, I don't think so.
Hakim, how about you? Do you want to add something?
Nope. For me, I think that's all.
How about Diana? Do you want to add something?
Me too. No.
And then finally, Shakirin, do you want to add something?
No, it's okay, all good.
Okay. So then, if there are no further matters to discuss, I think I would like to officially close today's meeting. Thank you again. Thank you again, everyone, for today, and have a pleasant day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
you.